Blimey, what a day to be at work. I mean, why Formula 1 chooses Thursday after a 3-week summer break to announce what seems to be absolutely everything. So many announcements today. First of all, apologies that this is a little bit late on, but second of all, welcome back to Transfer Talk, our first ever confirmed episode of Transfer Talk where no transfers have actually happened. There's going to be a second video a little bit later on talking about another team and a former Mercedes junior driver, Esteban Ocon. He has moved to Renault, but again, we're going to talk about that in a completely separate video. But our Transfer Talk episode 1 of the day, we're talking about Valtteri Bottas. The porridge master himself will be staying at Mercedes for 2020. Now again, this isn't a transfer, but I think what it is a surprise. I was not expecting this. I think a lot of people, especially before the summer break, where Valtteri had had difficult races, I was going to say in Silverstone, but Silverstone, that was a little bit out of his hands really with a safety car, but Germany in particular, a pretty awful race for Valtteri in the end, chasing down a victory, made a giant mistake into the barriers. Hungary, good qualifying, out-qualified Lewis Hamilton once again. He's had a really strong record against Hamilton so far this year. Hamilton has the edge, but Bottas has definitely been closer to what Hamilton arguably is, the best Formula 1 qualifier of all time. So Bottas has made big improvements on Saturday, but in the race again in Hungary, made mistakes on the opening lap, ended up having to fight through the field and consequently missed out on the podium. Ended up being a lap down as well behind his teammates. So after those two races in Germany and Hungary, with Toto Wolff making multiple comments about how he'd found Esteban Ocon a drive for 2020, how the team are looking to the future and looking at who they want in 2 or 3 years down the line to be in their car, many people felt, including myself, that they were going to go with Ocon for 2020. Whilst Hamilton was still in the team, I felt they were going to go with Ocon and let him learn from Lewis Hamilton. They've decided to go against that. They've given Bottas a contract for 1 year. Now again, I want to talk about Ocon and his Renault move a little bit later on, but of course we can't escape him because that's a huge dynamic in this deal. Why have they gone with Bottas? Well, I think it's important to start off by saying it's a 1-year deal, which again I think is a little strange, but that being said, a lot of teams are sort of lining themselves up for 2021. Lots of drivers on the grid are out of contract at the end of next year, so Bottas will be another name to that list. It also will allow drivers like Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, they're all going to be out of contract at the end of next year. Carlos Sainz as well. So there's going to be lots of moving and shaking going into 2021. But I think for Mercedes, for them, this is them repaying a driver who's been loyal, who's followed team orders, who I personally think has done enough to retain his seat. I think this year in particular, I think he's performed quite well as Valtteri Bottas. Again, especially on Saturday, 4 pole positions for Valtteri this year, 4 pole positions for Lewis Hamilton. You know, he's been there for the record-breaking start to a season with those 5 1-2s in a row. He was there for that. It wasn't fluke. Valtteri has been a perfect number 2 driver, if you want to call him that, and twice so far this year, he has won races. So has Max Verstappen, and Lewis Hamilton has won 8, but I'm not saying Valtteri Bottas is Lewis Hamilton. And how many teams, I mean, yes, this would be brilliant for any team, but first of all, how many Lewis Hamiltons are there in Formula 1? That A-star kind of driver? Not many, is the answer. How many teams have 2 A-star drivers? Even fewer, if not any, to be honest with you. So I think Bottas is a perfect fit for Mercedes. Keeps the balance, especially for next year when they're going to be gearing up for 2021 to bring in a change like Ocon next year and potentially, again, upset the balance. Is that sensible? Maybe not. And is it sensible to bring in Ocon after he has had just a full season out of racing? Is it sensible to then send him not only back into F1, but into a title contending car? I don't know. Did Ocon even prove himself enough in his 2 full seasons at Force India? Again, I'm not really too sure. I'm glad he's back, and we'll talk about that again in the video later on. But for Bottas, I think it's the safe option. We do have to bear in mind that Bottas is under the management of Toto Wolff, and Wolff was his manager whilst Bottas was at Williams. So there are deep ties within that relationship. So I think if they were to let Bottas go, it would have to be after a season like last, where he ended up 5th overall, behind the 2 Ferraris, behind Max Verstappen, behind his teammate comfortably. I think then you can justify moving him on. But I think to move him on after the season he's had so far, after the improvements he's had, the consistency he's had, and to then not only say, sorry Bottas, we need to let you go, but there to be no clear route to another team, that seems a little bit harsh, in my opinion anyway. Do I think Bottas has any regrets? Not at all. This is perfect for him. He's going to have another chance in the top team, more chances to win races. He's going to be beaming. I think the only thing he'll be disappointed about is that 1 year deal. He would have loved to have a 2 or 3 year more deal. And to be honest with you, Lewis Hamilton looks set for 6 world titles. At the end of next year, if he doesn't win the championship, will he stay on? If he does win the championship, again, he'll have 7 then. Well, maybe we'll have 7 then. Will he want to stay on? Is it wise for the team to keep Bottas in the team and then when Hamilton retires, promote an Ocon, promote a George Russell? I imagine Russell will be ready by then. But to promote one of those guys and still have Bottas within the team. For me, if you let him go now, that's that option completely out of the window. I mean, perfect example, case in point, this very season, Pierre Gasly. Look what happened when they elevated him to Mercedes too quickly. I mean, this is especially heading towards those people that believe Russell should be in that Mercedes seat. We can only compare Russell to Robert Kubica, who hasn't raced in Formula 1 since 2010. I mean, I've been banging this drum for a while, but it's not enough. We need to give Russell more time. We need to be able to judge his performances a little better. That's not me saying Russell's had a bad year. If you saw my mid-season previews, I think he's performed very, very well. But I think it's too soon. And I think the same with Ocon. Again, we've seen him for 2.5 years. He's had that year out. But to then promote him to Mercedes, and let's say then he struggles, like Gasly did. He can't get on the podium. He's not consistently getting into Q3, which seems unlikely in a Mercedes, but it seems unlikely in a Red Bull. If it happened with Ocon, let's say if then Bottas went to Renault, what happens then? Because you can't bring Bottas back. Okay, then you might bring in a Hülkenberg, a Perez, a short-term option. That's not healthy, especially for a team like Mercedes that pride themselves on being the best of the best, and they've proved themselves to be the best of the best ever since 2014 and the start of the hybrid era. So why would they want to, again, I say this all the time, but why would they want to upset the balance, and why would they want to get rid of that almost ace card of Valtteri Bottas? Because there's just no need, in my personal opinion. But as always, I like to leave this open. So I'm going to do a poll in the top right-hand corner, if I remember. Just a quick disclaimer there. If I remember, I'll do it in the top right-hand corner. So all you have to do is press that little I button, and then you can vote. Is it a good idea keeping Valtteri Bottas? I think yes. And I think, again, if Hamilton retires, you promote Russell. There's still an option then, if Bottas keeps getting these one-year deals, to bring in a Verstappen, to still let Bottas go. But it seems sensible to me, with Bottas' experience, with his proven pace as well. Okay, it can be a little inconsistent at times, and I think we've seen over the course of his entire Mercedes career that if he has one down race, there seems to be a couple in a row afterwards. Just like Silverstone, things didn't quite go his way, then Germany, then Hungary, and you're thinking, oh my god, then he seems to get it all together again. So, of course, when we look at this at the end of the season, it might be an entirely different picture. If he finishes the championship behind Verstappen and behind a Ferrari, then I think question marks rightly should be asked. If he finishes second, let's say 70 points behind Hamilton, I'm okay with that. But of course, I want to know your thoughts. I'm not a Mercedes fan, but I know plenty of you are. I know plenty of you are Hamilton fans, Verstappen fans, but I want to know, do you think this is the right move? I mean, I think most of you would feel this is the right move for Bottas, but for Mercedes, have they made the right decision? Should they have invested in youth for next year? Are they doing the right thing by letting youth gain that experience further down the field? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Ocon video later out today. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one.